Ooh. Hey guys. Over the years, I've worked with dozens of podcasters. I've helped them build their audience, generate revenue, and improve the way their shows are produced. And now I'm doing something that honestly, I would have been pretty skeptical of a few years ago. I'm building podcasts with AI. But these aren't just an AI voice reading a generic script over a music bed. These are story driven shows that are researched, written, and produced, and then packaged by a system that we built. And people are actually listening to them. The system uses a Google Sheet, an AI agent, N8N, text to speech, and then uploads it automatically to Spreaker. There's also a human approval process at points where the human can judge what actually matters. In this video, I'm going to walk you through the entire system and show you what each part does and explain how we stop it from turning into AI slop. Hey, it's Rob from MediaBlaster. So the entire process starts in a Google Sheet. This isn't the most exciting part, but it might be the most important part, as this is our source of truth. Every potential episode starts as an idea in this sheet. Some ideas come from me, some come from research, and some are even suggested by AI. But the sheet doesn't just hold the topic. It contains the information that the system needs to decide exactly what the episode is about, the angle, the audience, the type of story, and some key questions that we want answered, and any notes or sources that we already have. So for a new idea, I'll fill out the parts I already know. Then I use AI to help research the subject, find the gaps, and complete the remaining episode information. I'm not asking it to blindly invent a story. I'm giving it a defined show, a defined audience, and a structure it has to work inside. The sheet also tracks where every episode is in the process. At a glance, we can see where the episode is, whether it's just an idea, a script being worked on, in review, or even if it's been sent to production, and whether the completed episode is sitting in Spreaker waiting for our approval. That tracking matters because it's not one giant automation that fires and hope for the best. It's a production line with clear handoffs. If something stops, we know exactly where it stopped and what needs to happen next. We like to use Hermes, but it's not a requirement. You could build the same exact process with OpenClaw, ChatGPT, Claude, or any other AI agent that can access the information and follow a reliable set of instructions. What matters is not the name of the agent. What really matters is the knowledge and the standards you give it. Basically, Hermes pulls the episode data from the spreadsheet and works through a set of skills we have created specifically for the podcast production. Does the opening create curiosity? Does it keep the story moving? Is there any reason to listen to the next 30 seconds? Another skill takes and reviews the script for text-to-speech processing. It looks for awkward sentence structure, difficult pronunciations, abbreviations, and anything else that may be clear on a page but sound terrible when an AI voice reads it. We also have standards for what we consider a good script for that particular show. That includes things like structure, pacing, tone, research requirements, and the things we never want the show to do. This is probably the biggest difference between using AI to write something and building an AI production system. A prompt gives a model a task. A good skill gives it a repeatable way to do the task and a way to judge whether the result is good enough. Once Hermes finishes, a human reviews the script. We check the facts, the story, and whether it actually sounds like an episode we want to listen to. If it's approved, Hermes packages the information and sends it to N8N for production. At this point, N8N becomes our production manager. Hermes sends over the approved script and the episode information. N8N checks that everything is there that it needs, then starts building the episode. The first step is the voice. We currently use Inworld AI primarily, but you could also use ElevenLabs or any other text-to-speech provider that has an API. This all really depends on the show and how we need the voice to sound. The podcast has one consistent narrator. The engagement comes from the story, the performance, the pacing, and the production, not fake conversations between two generated AI hosts. N8N sends the narration to the text-to-speech service and then receives the audio files. Those files go through a system called FFmpeg. We use FFmpeg to keep the voice speech consistent, control levels, tighten pacing, and give the narrator that big radio voice. It also combines the narration with the intro, outro, music, and other digital production elements that make it sound like a finished show instead of just some weird voice memo. The before and after is important. The voice model matters, but the production is what turns the voice into a podcast. Once the MP3 is finished, N8N then takes the approved script and uses it to create the title, description, and the thumbnail artwork for the episode. And then finally, it takes the MP3, artwork, and metadata and sends them to Spreaker, which is the podcast host we use. The episode is uploaded as a draft. We deliberately do not have the system publish it immediately. So once everything reaches Spreaker, a member of our team goes through and listens to the entire episode. We're listening things for obvious problems, bad pronunciation, strange pauses, incorrect levels, or music that comes in at the wrong time. But we are also, and more importantly, listening to the story. Does the opening work? Does it drag? Is the information clear? Does the ending pay off what the episode promised? If everything's good, the team member checks the title, description, and artwork, then schedules the episode for publication. This is what we call the final gate. But saving a few minutes is not really worth publishing a broken episode. The goal of the system is to remove repetitive production work. It's not to remove accountability or a human in the loop. The big thing here is not every episode passes the review the first time. Sometimes it sounds like a name is pronounced incorrectly. Sometimes a section sounds fine on the page, but feels slow when you actually hear it. And sometimes the story just simply needs more work. When that happens, the reviewer writes clear notes and sends them back to Hermes. Hermes will then go through and update the script using those notes, then give a revised version back to the team member for approval. Once the change is approved, Hermes takes it and sends it to a second N8N workflow. That workflow handles the audio almost exactly like the first one, but it doesn't create another episode in Spreaker. Instead, it processes the corrected version and uploads the replacement MP3 to Google Drive. A team member listens to the repaired section, replaces the audio file in the existing Spreaker draft, and then completes the final checks. We separated the redo process because a revision should not accidentally create a duplicate episode or overwrite something that has already been approved. That's a small design decision, but it makes the system a lot safer to use. Now, obviously, there's a lot more behind each of these steps than I can cover in one video. So we're putting together a new course inside of our school community that's going to help you build an automated but premium podcast AI system. In that course, I'll walk you through exactly how we built this. That includes setting up the spreadsheet, connecting the agent, installing skills, building the approval process, and importing the N8N workflows. It's also going to include the actual templates, the skills, the FFmpeg scripts, and the setup instructions for the different services. So the goal is not to give you a vague overview and send you off to figure out the hard parts. Our goal is to give you a working system and show you how to adapt it for your own podcasts. So the biggest lesson from building this is that AI content does not have to be bad. But good results do not come from removing every human and pressing a publish button. They come from defining what looks good, building judgment into the system, and keeping human approval where it matters. So in the next video, I'm going to take the same idea into video. I'll show you how we are using AI to create videos that look intentional, hold attention, and don't come across as AI slop. If you want to see that, Make sure you subscribe, hit the like button, and let me know in the comments, what part of your podcast production process would you automate first?